Dr. Klein from Rimrock Wellness Center. I'm going to run through a series of exercises to strengthen what we call the rotator cuff of the hip. That's helping bringing that hip into the socket. So there's various muscles, just like our 4 rotator cuff muscles in our shoulder, help hold that joint in the socket. We have the same idea in the hips. Once the hip is in the socket, we're going to be moving better. We're going to create a better foundation for the rest of our workouts. The first we're going to hit is the illiacus muscle. So you want something like a ball or something you could squeeze in between your knees. You get on your side, and we want to bend a good bit where our knees are relaxed. And then I like to support my head here, so we don't want to be too rounded in this position. Pretty much all these exercises, you're trying to stay nice and lengthened. So just using your arm as a pillow, keeping your chest broad, and it'll help, because we're going to engage here with this exercise right in our stomach, right? Squeezing our belly button into our spine. So that's important that we're lengthened and straight. The first step is you're squeezing the knees together. Nice forceful squeeze. At the same time, tighten here in the stomach. And then think about just drawing that hip back into the socket. So you pull for a second and relax. So you're probably not even going to see much motion on the camera. Just a little bit of squeeze. We're tightening. And I'm just using that illiacus muscle, pulling that hip into that socket, squeezing it in. So pretty much I'm feeling the tension here, in front of the thigh, right here. I'm not squeezing with my glute muscles. I'm not squeezing my butt. That's for the illiacus. Next, we're going to hit the glute medius. A lot of people know this one as the Jane Fonda. We're going to stay in the same position. And you could do this with a band. I'll show you that after. But here we're the same thing. We're tightening. And most people make the mistake of going too much, and then they start rolling. So what you want to do is just think about going up a couple inches. So really squeezing, lengthening your spine. This one you're going to feel on the back side of the hip instead of the front. So squeezing here. And this one starts to burn almost right away. You're going to feel more of a burn with this one because it's a bigger, broader muscle. And it's generally weak on most people. And you want to check both sides with these exercises. Find which one's weaker for you, which one's a little tighter. Again, we can do it with the band. Want to add a little resistance. I find that's tough enough even without the band. This is an extra heavy band. What the band will do, though, is for you overachievers who really want to raise your knee too much, it's going to prevent you. And again, we don't want any rotation happening in our spine. Spine is really locked down, so this can really help your lower discs too. We don't want that spine moving. I'm pulling up against the band here. Going just like that. Trying to keep my core tight, not using my body to shift my leg open. We're really just isolating. So you want to feel it right there. Glute medius. Next thing we're going to hit is the psoas muscle. That psoas also runs to your hip. Most of you probably know that we call it the iliopsoas, but there are 2 different muscles. So the iliacus was the first part of that, which does a slightly different motion. Psoas, if it's imbalanced on one side, can tilt your trunk either way into what we call lateral bend. And it also mainly flexes the hip. So getting flat here, pull both up. Now this is the opposite of what you think. The one that's actually doing the work for the psoas is the one that's not moving. The other one's pressing, and this one's pulling. Do a little foot exercise too. If you notice that your hip is popping with this, don't press as far. Or get a stronger band like this. This is an extra heavy one, so it doesn't even allow me to get close to where I'd feel that hip pop. My hips used to pop a lot, but the more I've worked on getting them into place, they pop less. Why? Because the rotator cuff of the hip is stronger, that it's not coming in, going out, going in, going out, going in. You don't want that. You want to tighten a lot so that doesn't happen. So you can do this different ways. Usually I do 10 reps on one side. So I'm really feeling it here, really keeping myself flat. You can do whatever you want with the arms. You can even add a little foundation exercise into this if you're an overachiever. Try to keep your knees about 90 degrees. A lot of people are here, or they're up there. Just check yourself. Okay, it's about at 90 degrees. So now I'm working my right psoas muscle. Don't let your head go up either. I started looking up, my head was going up. You also don't want your head back in extension like this. If you have too much rounding and your traps are up too tight, your head will fall into extension. So you just want a light pillow, or you can just use your hands in this position to make sure your head is level not an extension. Just grabbing the back of your skull, forcing it level. I know there's a lot of little things, but the devil's in the details. You want to make sure your spine is straight. Or a light folded towel can help prevent that too. That's for the psoas muscle, another muscle that's going to help hold that in the socket. It's generally pretty weak on everybody. Next, we're going to do the leg trace. You don't need the band for it. Use my little headset here. So for the leg trace, pretty straight. You're going to put that heel on your shin. And we're not here, we're pulling that hip across, squeezing, tracing up. Right bow to the knee, and down again. This is a combination of a couple different muscles. A little bit of the psoas we were just working. A little bit of the illiacus. We have a lot of external rotators of the hip. And generally, most people, our hips are turned out. That's why we take x-rays. We have to turn our feet in, because most people's hips are so turned out we can't even see them. So we want to work those internal rotators a little bit. And it'll probably be a little more straight, not having your foot hang off. Limited ability to do that on this table. Really squeezing, taking it slow. You're going to find spots that kind of catch. You want to fight through those. Really squeezing, getting that hip in. We don't want to be twisting our spine, or the spine, pretty much all these exercises, straight, not moving. Tightening, lengthening, and then once it's lengthened, we start the exercise. Now, one of the enemies of your hip hinge is your hamstring. And usually, I find a lot of people, it's the lateral hamstring, pretty much on one side, that's really attacking us. So come to your chiropractor, he'll tell you right away, he'll be able to see which hamstring's tighter. So, I actually forgot which side mine is. Mine's my right. So I'm going to start on my right. Most people are on the left, though. You don't want to be right where you sit on, because that's a little more tendon. Go into the muscle. So right about, find that sit bone. That's our ischial tuberosity. So our ischial tuberosity is the bone you sit on. So that's where the hamstring attaches. So we're going down a little bit more into the muscle belly. Putting that weight right on that tennis ball. And most people, when they raise their leg, they lean back because they want to get the leg up really high. It's not about getting the leg up really high. It's finding that shaky area. So we're tightening, pulling that hip hinge again, and then pulling up. See how that leg starts to shake? That's what you want to go for. Little shake in the leg. Can you see the leg? Good. After I hit that spot, you work down that hamstring muscle. And I don't really feel too much in that spot. I felt more at the higher spot, so I'm going to keep working down, just like when we do with foam rolling. We don't want to roll the muscles that aren't tight. So your hamstring can get spasmed in a certain area. It's not necessarily the whole muscle all the time. So for me, I felt it up higher, so I'm just going to go back there. If you're not sure, it feels all kind of tight, you can't really tell. Just do the whole muscle, and then compare it to the other side. See if there's a difference. Really tightening, broadening the chest, pulling yourself forward. Also, as the leg comes up, I counteract by pulling myself even farther, not rounding into that position, just coming there. Obviously not as tight on my left. That's going to help loosen up those hamstrings to help us with our exercises. So it's a good thing to do before you get started. Next, we're going to do a Jefferson curl. So this is going to be kind of the opposite of what I normally say. Normally I say, don't bend at the spine. But we all have areas of restriction in our spine that actually do need some motion. And there's other areas that are a little more lax that don't have enough motion. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a weight above our heads. Pretty light, we don't want heavy. Really try to lengthen yourself. And so when you first start bending, curling at the neck, you're going to start pretty much right here. And you're going to go one vertebrae at a time, bringing each little vertebrae into flexion. So the rest of your body is tight. You're really focusing on one vertebrae at a time. If you feel like a whole bunch of segments move together, that's probably an area of restriction. I'm just going one at a time, painfully slow, down into my lumbars now. I'm about to hit my tailbone. There's 33 of those suckers, so it takes some time. Once I get to the bottom, I'm going to work my way back up. Each lumbar at a time. Into the thoracics. And you can write down where you feel is really tight. For me, more base of the neck. So when I come to my chiropractor, I'm like, man, when I was doing that Jefferson curl, felt locked up here. Do your job. Next, let's come over here. We're going to do 2 more. I'm going to show you without the band, but you can use the band for some of these. A lot of times one hip is higher than the other, and you can do both sides. So you're going to start here from the top of your foot on the ground, so it slides. So it's best not to do it on carpet. So as my hand starts crawling up, I'm going to slide that leg even farther back. And we're just crawling with our fingertips. It really helps the wrist too. Kind of sinking into there, allowing that hip to drop. So we could stretch the QL. We're going to get a little bit of the lat. All those can make the hip higher on one side than the other. And it might be that you got something like this going on. A lot of times it's here, where one hip is higher, the other shoulder is lower. Sometimes you got a wonky thing where it's going on where the other shoulder is lower. So you would just switch it up, kind of do a bit of a crisscross. So you got a lot of twist going in the spine. Try both sides first. And then you can switch over to this side. Again, we're hinging at the hips when we're doing this one. Not letting my knee go forward. I'm actually pulling my weight back. So this is the dancer stretch. You can do it without the wall, but I like grabbing onto the wall. It really helps work those wrist extensors, wrist flexors in the arm that open up the joint in the wrist.